Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Another interesting topic. Who are the two witnesses? I cannot tell you how many people have come up with some, that'd be nice, harebrained, scatterbrained ideas on who the two witnesses are. So I'm going to show you, I believe it's 7 reasons on one and 8 reasons on the other. First of all, I used to think that the two witnesses were Moses and Elijah. Why? Simply because Elijah did not die. A chariot of fire came and got him, and the Bible says it is appointed man once to die and then the judgment. So it was an easy conclusion for me that had not studied that out at the time to say, oh, well, it's got to be Elijah. No, it's a lot deeper than that. So, who are the two witnesses? Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you're probably saying, what two witnesses? What are you talking about? Two witnesses. Okay, so let me give you the background. And by the way, I might go long today, but I'm going to keep going to get all the way through it. The event that starts the tribulation. What's the tribulation? It's the last 7 years before the end of time. Jesus returns at Armageddon. And the thing that starts it is the first seal is opened, or the Antichrist confirms the covenant with many, which probably happens on or about around the same time. But here's the problem. The first seal's opened. How do we know when the first seal is opened? Well, that's just the point. We might not know. So when the first seal is opened, those are the scriptures that tells you that there is a white horse that is released. Now, some people think it's all kinds of crazy things, but the one thing I want to point out is the word crown. So the first question is, does God give crowns to demons? No, he doesn't. The devil gives crowns to his demons. Okay, so God gives this angel a crown. It's God's angel, bring judgment on the earth. Okay, the second thing to look for is the confirmation of the covenant with me for 1 week. Confirmation, what confirmation? Covenant, what covenant? And what is a week? Okay, so let's dig into it a little bit. As I mentioned briefly, I am in the process of learning how to read and speak Hebrew. So that is the 10 words that, in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or Anador said that, or Einschweig, Darfir. Okay, 1 through 10. This is the 1 through 10 for Hebrew. And I want you to number 7, and it's pronounced Shiva if it's the feminine pronunciation, and if it's the masculine, it's Shiva. Okay, now remember that, Shiva. So I actually went into my studies that my Hebrew teacher has given me. These are the words that I'm working on memorizing and learning right now. Like, for example, the Hebrew word for ticket is kardas. The Hebrew word for was is haya. The Hebrew word for how is ache. But if you'll go to the bottom left, yoter is more, gam is also, matai is when, etzli means at my place, etzleka means at your place if you're talking to a man. If you're talking to a woman, you say etzlek, at your place. But I want to call your attention to this. Okay, so was is haya, how is ache. So if you want to say this sentence, how was your week, you say et haya hashavua, there's the word I want you to hear, hashavua, and then shelka or shalak, depends on whether it's male or female. And if you want to answer, my week was fine, you say heshavah shile shili, I didn't even pronounce it right, heshuva shili haya beseder. That means my week was fine, or my week was good. Now, the word heshavah means 7. So if the way Israel, even to this day, this was just this past week, when I logged on, she said, Ekaya Heshava Shaka, because I'm a male. In other words, how was your week? And I responded, Heshava Shili Haya Beseder. I didn't say it that nicely because I wasn't looking at the words at the time. I'm still learning. But anyway, the point is Heshavua, meaning 7. If I were to say the time is 7 p.m., you say Hasha Asheva. That's the way it's pronounced. So, what does it mean when it says for 1 week? The word is Sheva or Shavua, meaning 7. So, the Antichrist will confirm a covenant with many nations for 1 week. This is a week of years, so that's 7 years. That's what it's saying. So what starts the 7-year tribulation is some kind of a covenant. Okay, here's the problem. There's covenants signed all the time. And normally a covenant, when it's signed, is not dated to end on exactly 7 years. And I don't believe this one will be either. It just ends when Jesus returns. So it's some kind of a covenant. Covenant with who? Well, it definitely has to be a covenant with Israel. Are we looking for a covenant with Israel? I heard just today on the news that one of the things Fox News is, excuse me, one of the things that Trump is asking for is that, and he's thinking, this is in his cabinet meeting just today, live today, I saw this, he's thinking of asking all of the nations of the Middle East to sign the Abraham Covenant, Abraham Accord, which is basically saying we reserve, or we agree that Israel has the right to resist, or to, I can't even talk today. Israel has the right to exist. Well, that's a very, very big covenant, and it's a covenant with many nations, and that might be the Abraham Accord, might be what Daniel 7 calls the third beast. It might also be the confirmation of the covenant. In other words, at the conclusion of this Iran war, if Saudi Arabia and much of the nations of the Middle East have a big agreement with Israel, it could very, very, very possibly be, don't know yet, the starting of the 7-year tribulation. So it goes on to say for 1 week, and in the midst of the week, in other words, in the middle of the 7-year week, he, the Antichrist, shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. Well, they aren't sacrificing, and they haven't sacrificed animals in Israel for almost 2,000 years yet. But some people say that little practice of the red heifer here about a year ago was not actually practice, it was actually starting of the covenant. Well, it could also be that part of the conclusion of the Iran war, that covenant, that Abraham Accord, that whole agreement there could be giving the Palestinians a state. It also could be the Palestinians or the Arabs giving Israel back access and control of their Temple Mount, which is one of the things some of them, are waiting for to see that they can start animal sacrifice. My point is, we could be very, very close to the start of the last 7 years. We're watching. Let's keep watching. Now, here's what I'm going to do. In my words, then I'm going to show you scripture about how all of this works to bring about the start of the tribulation, and specifically the two witnesses. So at the start of the tribulation, Satan sends the Antichrist, that's his son, my opinion, which is going to be half Lucifer, half human, to rise to rule the world for the last 3.5 years. He rises at the beginning of the 7 years, but he is not in charge until the last 3.5 years. And in the middle of the tribulation, the Antichrist is wounded and either dies or comes back to life, or appears to die and comes back to life. And when he does that, that's when Lucifer actually enters into his body, because it is Lucifer, according to the Bible, that wants to sit on the Ark of the Covenant. So probably there's some big event that happens just prior to the middle of the tribulation where Lucifer enters into his dead body, or his body appearing to be dead. This causes all the world to wander after the beast, and all those whose names are not written in the book of life shall worship the beast. Sad to say, it's going to be most people on earth. In the middle of the tribulation, that's the last 7 years, Satan sends the Antichrist, his son, to be the world ruler, and some Protestant leader. Okay, so who are the two witnesses? The Antichrist, God has given the mouth of the Antichrist to speak great or very, very bad things against God, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. The false prophet is a Protestant leader. Why? Because he's called a woman. That is the church. That's a Protestant leader. Will point to the Antichrist saying, this is the real God, and eventually command all true believers to kill all of the non-believers. That would be us. That's what they would call the non-believers. And that fulfills by peace, he will destroy many. He's going to say, we got to have one world religion, got to have one world currency, we got to have one world government in order to have peace. Anybody who doesn't want to become part of that, you got to kill them if you're going to have peace. So all of this is talked about. If you want to understand, I'm gonna be talking and moving fast today. If you want to really get it, then you got to get the book. That's one of the visions that was given to me. Is the vision showed that some things cannot be learned by just audio and video. Some things have to be learned by looking. And this book at the back of it has the charts that I often refer to. So, one of the visions told me that if you want to understand Bible prophecy, some things cannot be understood by just audio and video. Some things you have to actually read. And that's the reason I wrote this book. This is the first book. And in the back of it, it has all of the charts. And you can get one for $20, but don't do that. You want to get a shrink wrap set of 5 for $35 at prophecyclub.com. While you're there, you also want to get this book. This one tells you about the timing of the rapture. And in the back of it, also, you find the charts that I'm often talking about. And what you want to do on this one is 20. Don't do that. You want to get a shrink wrap set of 10 of them. This is 1 for 20 or 10 for 35 or 1 for 20 or 5 for 35 or all 15 books for a gift of $50. And frankly, we could use the help right now. Okay, so this explains that you can pause and look at all the details if you want to. Let's keep moving. So, the next thing we want to talk about is God's two witnesses. John the Revelator. I got several reasons, so I'm going to move quickly. Revelation 1:9 says, I, John, whom also your brother and companion in tribulation. By the way, these words come directly out of this book. So it's exactly word for word in a lot of these places. So I thought John was saying he was going to be in the tribulation the last 7 years. Is he saying he's going to be there in the tribulation to come? At the time, I dismissed the thought because I was a post-trib believer at the time. I thought the two witnesses would be Enoch and Elijah, and I kept memorizing and moved forward. Besides, tribulation also means trouble or pressure, so it is not necessarily speaking of the last 7 years. It stayed at the back of my mind as a possibility for John as being one of the two witnesses. Reason number 2, John eats the sweet roll and the prophecies. When I reached Revelation 10:8, a second reason arrived, taking a more serious look to see if I had misunderstood about Elijah and Enoch. Being the two witnesses, I discovered something new in the scriptures. In these verses, John eats the little book, or the little roll, the little scroll, which was sweet as honey in his mouth. There are only 2 places in the Bible in which a book or roll is eaten, and it is sweet as honey to the taste. This is the scripture. Go take the little book out of the angel's hand. And it was sweet as honey in my mouth, but when I'd eaten it, my belly was bitter. Skip on down. Then Ezekiel 2:9, 3, and 4 says, was written there in Lamentations, mourning, and woe, eat this scroll or this roll, and go and speak to the house of Israel. It is for honey for sweetness. And in other words, so one of the scrolls, the reason that John ate the scroll was to get the words he's going to prophesy in the 7-year tribulation. God had Ezekiel eat the sweet roll and was immediately told to speak the words of lamentation, mourning, and woe. So, likewise, immediately after John eats the sweet roll, he is also told to prophesy the same way. John eats the book, which gives him the words to say. Reason number 3. Speaks to many people, nations, and tongues, and kings. That was an unfulfilled prophecy. So John was told that by one of the most powerful angels in the Bible that he was going to speak to many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. According to the book of Fox's Book of Martyrs, John was actually boiled in oil and banned to the island of Patmos. He never traveled the globe prophesying to many people, nations, tongues, and kings, so that is an unfulfilled prophecy. This is, if you want to read it, what Fox's Book of Martyrs actually said. And it says cauldron of boiling oil. And of course, that makes it an unfulfilled prophecy. Reason number 4. Only 2 verses later, the angel reveals the 2 witnesses. The text never changes topics from telling John that he is going to prophesy to many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings, to, I will give power unto my 2 witnesses. So because there's only two verses between them, I believe that he is one of the two witnesses. That's reason number 4. Furthermore, neither of the two verses change the topic or subject, thou must prophesy again, as speaking to John when it says, I will give power unto my two witnesses. It's a direct prophecy. Thou must prophesy again is speaking of John the Revelator. So, since it's a continuation of thought, I give that another reason. And there's the scriptures to back what I'm talking up if you want to pause and read them. I will give power to my two witnesses, Revelation 11, and fire proceeds out of their mouth. That is one of the things that two witnesses do. Reason number 5, Christians would readily listen to John. I mean, think about it. Who would the person that the Christians would listen to more than anyone short of Jesus? And that would be John. He says, look, I wrote the book. I was given the book almost 2,000 years ago. So I think that's reason number 5. Reason number 6, John and Moses are linked through time by the secret door of prophecy. So let me tell you the vision. So I didn't ask for it, but I saw the book of Torah and the book of Revelation side by side, and I saw what appeared to be like about the size of a stick of butter was a secret door, a time tunnel that linked the prophecies of the Torah, that's the first 5 books of the Bible, to the prophecies of Revelation. And in that split second, faster than a millisecond, I was made to know that there is a secret door, one word, first fruits, that links the prophecies of Moses, i.e. the prophecy or the feast of Leviticus 23 to be exact, to the prophecies of Revelation. And because it was linked to the book that Moses wrote, i.e. the Torah, it's another reason I think Moses is going to be there. That's, in short, you can read all of the words, and there that tells you about the vision that I had, which I just explained to you. So, summary, 6 reasons for John being one of the two witnesses. John, who am also your brother and companion in tribulation. 2, he ate the sweet book roll for lamentations, mournings, and woe. He is the unfulfilled prophecy, thou must prophesy again to many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings, and he didn't get off the island. Thou must prophesy again is only 2 verses from I will give power to my two witnesses. John of the book of Revelation is the New Testament part of the secret door. Who would the Christians listen to the most would be John. There's 6 reasons why I think John the Revelator is going to be one of the two witnesses. Now let's go to Moses. Reason number 1, the tribulation saints sing the song of Moses. So this is talking about in Revelation. Obviously, the book talking about the last days. But right in the middle of it, it has that they are singing the song of Moses. Why are these people standing on the sea of glass? I see, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that got victory over the beast, over his image, over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand upon the sea of glass, having the harps of God, and they sing the song of Moses. Why is it the people in the tribulation sing the song of Moses? Why? Because they just spent time with him. I would arrive at the conclusion that these tribulation saints had just battled the beast for the last 3.5 years alongside Moses and John. They're standing on the sea of glass because before their death they had just witnessed Moses and John fighting almost daily with evil in the streets of Jerusalem. Their victory was losing their life for Christ and not giving in to the beast, his lies, mouth, speaking great things. They became overcomers. They resisted and kept my works to the end. John the Revelator will be an overcomer, witnessing to those people, skipping. But Moses is also one of the two witnesses. They know and see Moses battling the beast, which is why they play their harps and sing the song of Moses, because they've just spent the last 3.5 years watching the two witnesses battle the false prophet and the Antichrist. Reason number 2. So in Egypt, Moses turned water to blood, and one of the things that the two witnesses do is likewise, here it is, turn water into blood. You remember Ecclesiastes 1:9 says, the thing that hath been done is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the heaven. Means that prophecy repeats itself. It's not just a one-time play. So in Exodus 7:17, Moses, quote, waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. Then Revelation 11:6, the same thing is said of Moses again. The two witnesses have power over waters to turn them to blood. Far as I know, Moses is the only person in the Bible that turned water to blood. And he's going to be doing it again in the last days, the last 7 years, walking around the streets of Jerusalem, trying to convince the Jews that Jesus really is their Messiah. Reason number 3, Moses was given the song of Moses. So on his, let me just tell you what it says. On 120th birthday, Moses stands up and he gives this long prophecy called the Song of Moses. In it, he says, there will be with these people in their darkest days sending out curses against evil. Next, the reason is the grave of Moses was never known. As you recall, the two angels came and got his body. Perhaps the bodies of John and Moses were taken to heaven, and that is the reason the devil and Michael fought over the body of Moses, is because the body of Moses is going to be used again in the last days as one of the two witnesses. Reason number 5, Moses was promised to go into the land that flows with milk and honey. So the 5th reason is its unfulfilled prophecy. The day Moses died, massive amounts of oil will be found in Israel in the last days. I'm sorry I said that wrong. Let me actually read it. My 5th reason is an unfulfilled prophecy or promise made to Moses. Many of Moses' prophecies spoken on his 120th birthday, the Song of Moses, the day he died, prophesied in the last days massive amounts of oil will be found in Israel in the last days. So the point is, so on his 120th birthday, part of what Moses prophesies is that massive amounts of oil will be found in Israel. So it makes sense he would be there to see that prophecy fulfilled. Reason number 6. The feasts and the Torah written by Moses are part of the secret door of prophecy, which was talked about in this book. So the feasts given to Moses are part of the secret door of prophecy. This prophecy called the Song of Moses was given to Moses because Moses will be there in the last 3.5 years, seeing it fulfilled. What other good reason would there be explaining why the Song of Moses would be even mentioned in Revelation, a book about the last 7 years? Why? Because Moses lived about 3,500 years ago. The Song of Moses is written in Revelation because Moses is going to be one of the two witnesses. The secret door is a time tunnel that links the feasts, and that's why Moses and the prophecies and John the Revelator are all linked together. Moses' reason, number 7. Who would the Israelites listen to tell them about the last days the most? Moses. Who would the Christians listen to the most? John the Revelator. Who would the Jews listen to the most? Moses. So here's the summary of the reasons why Moses will be one of the two witnesses. The tribulation saints sing the Song of Moses. In Egypt, Moses turned water to blood, and one of the two witnesses turned water to blood. Moses was given the prophecy of the Song of Moses, which plays in the last days. The grave of Moses was not found, and Michael and the devil fought over his body, perhaps because it's going to be there again. Moses was promised to go into the land that flows with milk and honey. The feasts and the Torah, written by Moses, are the Old Testament half of the secret door of prophecy. So who would the Israelites listen to tell them the most about the last days? Moses. If there's anybody the Jews in Israel right now today would listen to, it would be Moses. As a matter of fact, because they listened to Moses and they don't understand the prophecies that Moses gave, is the very reason they refuse to believe that Jesus is their Messiah. They're looking for another Messiah. So, Moses and Aaron standing before Pharaoh is actually a picture, a foreshadowing of Moses and John the Revelator, the two witnesses standing before the Antichrist and the false prophet. Some very deep research went into bringing this to you. So, John and Moses will be the two witnesses, in my opinion. So, may I recommend you go to prophecyclub.com and you want to get my new book, this tells you about the rapture, when the rapture takes place. This one explains the last 7 years, the prophecies of Revelation put into the correct chronological order. One is for 20, but don't do that. Shrink wrap set of 5 for 35. One of these is 20, but don't do that either. A shrink wrap set of 10 for 35, or both for a gift of $50. Man, 15 books for $50, that's a good deal and helps your Prophecy Club. Speaking of that, may I ask you to start standing with us on a monthly basis? It seems like I have to get in a real jam. We're just about to hit red in our checkbook before I ask. And then when I ask, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time I get enough help to dig us out, which lasts for a week or two. And then we're back down in a hole again. I'm having to say we're in an emergency situation, and we're sort of getting close to another emergency situation. I don't like that. You probably don't like me talking about it all the time. I know I wouldn't. So I'm asking you to somehow set up to where an every month donation comes to Prophecy Club every month. And that way it would be so nice. Matter of fact, I just took a nap before I made the program today. As I was waking up out of this nap, I said, Lord, I will be so glad when the pressure of the financial pressure is lifted. There's a lot of financial pressure on me, and it comes when you guys say, I'm going to support him every month, not just when he's in a jam. So I would appreciate you doing that. Thank you. I should tell you about this. EMP, I called him. Actually, I emailed him. And I said, can you do a special for just Prophecy Club people? And they said, yeah. So they emailed back and said, tell you what we're going to do for Prophecy Club people. It's been real good to us. We're going to get $65 off of every product through the end of May. Here's what you do. Use the promo code Prophecy Sale 2026. And that will, you go into your cart, put the things into your cart, you get to the promo part, put in Prophecy Sale 2026, and it'll remove $65 from each one of the products through the end of May. So go check it out. It's good for your home, your cars. You see all the things it'll do there, listing there. Also, would you rather be standing in a line waiting for food or for oil for your car with a credit card that they might not take? Or would you rather be standing there with maybe a silver or a gold coin to exchange for it? I think probably the persons with the gold or silver coin would get it before other people got it. So consider 800-200 gold. 800-200 gold. If you're thinking about crypto, prophecyclubcrypto.com. They'll answer your questions and help you to make the best decision for you. And ask Jesus into your heart.